Live on News Now. Hello.
Samia, great to hear from you. Of course, you can see the practice field in the background right here at University of Phoenix Stadium. Now, they take this field in at the end of the practice session, so you see the concrete here, and it goes back out and takes in the sunshine. It keeps the natural grass turf fresh. It's really one of the most unique features. And then, of course, you see the natural turf where we see a lot of the drills behind me as well. So camp really wrapped up at about 4:30 this afternoon. But it certainly has been a very, very dynamic training camp for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, I think people have said, and they've asked me what's so unique, and I've said without hesitation that this is the most talented roster that we've seen with the Arizona Cardinals since they've arrived here back in 1988. Yes, it's that good, and I say that because, Samia, they're deep at every position. I mean, you look at the wide receiving core. Man, they've got speedsters. They've got physical receivers. They got depth at tight end with guys like Gresham and Fells. And then when you look at the running back core, second-year man David Johnson, Chris Johnson, and Andre Ellington, and Kerwin Williams. I mean, I can go on and on. I think that's what's so exciting. You know, we've seen this team coming off the NFC title game absolutely own the market. I mean, everybody's the merchandise flying off the rack. Kids with Cardinal jerseys on. When we say Cardinals, people perk up and peak up, and they want to know more, and they should, because this certainly, as we've seen across the board here, is a very legitimate contender to really make no noise come playoff time. So a very, very exciting time. You know, as far as the basic facts that I think a lot of people want to know right now, John Brown suffering what appears to be a minor concussion over the weekend. I don't think that's going to be any serious concern here. Of course, with the new protocol, you always watch any kind of brain trauma injury, so they'll do the right thing there. We've got Robert Nkemdiche in a walking boot. He's the top pick for Mississippi State, who I think number 90 fans are going to absolutely be enthralled with. Really, really talented young defensive lineman. Justin Bethel still recovering off a foot injury. That's going to be something to watch. He's probably going to be back in about 2 weeks. But as far as early impressions go, Brandon Williams, the young man, the rookie out of Texas A&M, who used to be a running back, converted cornerback. He's been very, very athletic, very impressive, learning from his mentor here, Patrick Peterson. That's been kind of interesting to watch. The other position is the big fella, number 74 at right tackle, DJ Humphries. He looks like a new man. I mean, he came in kind of a young rookie, baby fat. I mean, he just was not ready to play last year. This year, he's ready to play. And he really looks good. So there's some new faces along the offensive line at center, right guard, right tackle. And for the most part, I think this team is really going to, you know, people in this town that love NFL football are going to be absolutely stoked over every aspect of this football team. They got a veteran quarterback who was fabulous last year. They got Larry Fitzgerald, who everybody just goes crazy for after sessions. Everybody wants his autograph. They got faces of the franchise. They've got depth, and they got a team that is a real threat to go very, very deep this year.
Who has been the most impressive early on, Jude?
Well, when I look at it's been David Johnson, a number 31 in his second year out of Northern Iowa. And when, you know, without getting too much inside football, he is, to me, and I'm kind of dating myself here, but he's a bigger version of Larry Centers. And to me, Larry Centers is a viable Hall of Fame candidate. He is a guy, a running back that played for the Cardinals, great hands, great out of the backfield and catching the football, very tough inside the tackles as well. David Johnson is bigger and faster than Larry Centers. He is a guy that you can line up in a variety of different positions. You can toss it to him on the edge, and he's just a fabulous athlete with great speed. Actually looked like he put on a little more weight this season, his second year in the league. And then you can line him up in the slot. He can play wide receiver. You can toss it to him out of the backfield and get that matchup advantage on the linebacker. So David Johnson, number 31, is a guy that I think is just absolutely dynamic. Now you look at Larry Fitzgerald, who I know you're a big fan of, Samia. He's catching everything today, and as much as he despises the grind of training camp, he just goes about his business at such a high level. But I'd have to say David Johnson is at the top of my list as a guy that just jumps out at you in his second year right now.
What's a typical day at training camp like, Jude?
Well, a typical day is, starts with a walkthrough, the new collective bargaining agreement, which I think safeguards these guys. I mean, I was just telling Randy Gruen here, when we started out at training camp in Flagstaff in the late 80s, early 90s, they were going like 6-7 weeks of two-a-days. And that's a lot of helmet-to-helmet banging. And we know how conscious this league is about brain trauma. So what they've done with the new collective bargaining agreement, they've limited actual physical contact in training camp. So they do a walkthrough in the morning hours, and that's just kind of literally what it is, a walkthrough of different schemes. They do some, a host of drills here, but they go through a walkthrough and kind of go about their business and learning the playbook and looking at aspects of the game in terms of, their red zone offense, their special teams, their 2-minute drill, and they'll go through a walkthrough. Then when they come back out in the afternoon session, which starts at 2 o'clock and goes to about 4:30, they'll go through a variety of drills. They'll look at all types of things. The quarterbacks will loosen up, and they'll go through some plyometric drills in between some of the pads. Then you'll see them with some of the tackling dummies, some of the basics when it comes to the linebacking core. The offensive linemen and defensive linemen will match up in a series of one-on-one matchups, and there's some drills there. Then they get into game situations. You'll see some 7-on-7. You'll see some of the quarterbacks in a variety of different formations, and they'll go about their business in the afternoon session, which goes to 2 to 4:30, and then they could get some film work in as well. They'll tape all of these activities here, and they'll look in particular a lot of the young guys, some of the rookies, second, third-year players, and see how they're digesting where to go. I think the biggest challenge for a lot of young NFL players is you think about the game before you react to what you're supposed to do. There's a lot to absorb at this level of football, the highest level of football. So you want the athleticism to become reactionary. You don't want to sit there and go, where do I go? What's this play call? It's a lot of absorbing where you should go and how to do it. And over time, when you see some of these veterans, it becomes second nature. Now, one of the big advantages for Bruce Arians, keep in mind, he's entering in his 4th year. And if you go back to that first year, because of his scheme and system, there was a lot to absorb, not just for the quarterback, for the wide receiving core as well. So now you've got guys that have been in his system 3 and 4 years, and it becomes second nature. You're just reacting with a full speed intent, and you can see that with some of the guys that have been in his program the last few years. So those are some of the things to watch for when you really merge the young guys, the rookies trying to make the team, the undrafted free agents, and then some of the veterans that have been in camp for quite some time. But Arians has a masterful control over his team. He's very authoritative. If he sees something that he doesn't like, you'll hear about it. You will hear about it downfield. He'll sit there and he'll say, you'll hear him screaming away and saying, let's do it right. So he is a taskmaster there. And I think one of the great assets that Bruce has is that, unlike a lot of coaches that just preach, this is the scheme, this is where I want you to go, this is what I want you to do, he has a lot of veteran coaches that teach technique, that emphasize technique in training camp. So it's not just about knowing where to go, it's how to turn your hips if you're a cornerback. It's how to get yourself in position. It's understanding some of the fundamentals, which I see unlike previous head coaches here. It's not just about being in position, it's understanding the art of technique per your position. So it's a very thorough camp. I think he paces these guys. He doesn't overwork them, but he demands a lot.
Now at this
We've got
point,
a little music in the background here by the way, a new sound system, a very new sound system here that I think fans will take a look at and enjoy once this season gets started. One of the things they'll be looking for coming up this Saturday will be the red and white scrimmage. They don't call it, it's kind of a red and white practice, but that goes from 2 to 4:30, and that will be a massive turnout of fans that will have a chance to see some of their favorite players and then some of the new faces, the draft picks, and some of the guys that are long shots.
and the first preseason game is next Friday the 12th, right?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I mean, I think, first preseason game, normally what you do is you look at your starters in for, possibly a couple of sets, and then it becomes the battle for position. You see a lot of the backups trying to get reps. The most important preseason game, generally speaking, is the third preseason game, and that's where a lot of these starters have a chance to get an entire half in. And then the fourth preseason game is really the guys on the bubble that are still trying to make the team. So it's kind of a trend of first game, you get a fresh look, you try to get out there and get your rhythm back in full speed contact. And then third preseason, the most important preseason game. And then fourth preseason game, guys are just trying to make the team. I'm kind of curious to look at the offensive line. You know, we mentioned the center, right guard, right tackle position. I think that's going to be a unit to watch, and how they protect Carson Palmer, how they run the football. And then I think the other key position to look for will be the cornerback opposite Patrick Peterson, with Gerard Powers now playing at Baltimore. I think a lot of people want to see how some of those new faces factor in, because as you know, last year, Samia, that they threw a lot opposite Patrick's side. Patrick is maybe the best, if not the best, cover corner in the game. So what does that mean? Opposing quarterbacks go to the other cornerback and try to pick on the less talented cornerback, and that's quite an obligation and responsibility in James Betcher's defensive scheme. So it's going to be fun. I think, you know, in the years I've been around here, I can't remember this type of interest going into a training camp. You got to be careful not to tag Super Bowl champs on a team that has so many hurdles to go through. It's such a long season. You got to look at health and injuries. But for the most part, this interest is sky high, and we've become a legitimate NFL town for sure.
Now, we've talked about preseason games.
Maybe you can identify the music behind me, man. I can't.
What is that?
Maybe you can. Maybe it's the latest song from Fergie or something. I don't know what's behind
Hold on, let me
now,
listen.
But you'll have to ID that. Yeah, maybe you can get it. Let's name that tune with Samia here in our News Now 7. Who is this, Samia? You only get so many seconds. I mean, you got to nail that one down.
No, I need to keep listening. Like, I know the song, and it's
pop cultural musical background.
Go back, please. Give me one more
chance.
chance.
Try to get younger, trending younger here. Go back. Okay, all right. One more chance for Samia here. Name that tune. I got that. I do have that app on my phone where like it IDs, you know, everything from classical to hip hop. But there, one more time. I think we're delving in a little bit of country western here right now. I don't know, man.
I think that's
okay,
Luke Bryan.
There you go. Well, at least you identified the genre. I'll give you 2 points.
I'm going
for that.
Luke Bryan.
I have no way of knowing, but I'll say that's a really great guess.
The song is called Country Girl.
It should be fun. We'll be out here again. There you go. Okay, Country Girl. You know, you learn something new every day at Cardinals camp. We'll be out here again tomorrow, and we'll have a chance to really, you know, get into some of the storylines. And as I said, it's so much fun to get out here, see these guys, and observe and just get a feel for a team that has a tremendous interest with our viewers out there, and a lot more to come throughout the week here on Fox 10 and News Now. And we've tweeted some videos and also some photos throughout the day here at Jude Fox 10. And of course, don't forget Richard Sines as well with his Twitter account and Facebook page. But we look forward to doing more of this throughout